My wife left me for my brother, but you won't believe what happened next. The letter was short, almost brutally so. A single page, typed, no flowery language, no apologies. I'm leaving you, David. For Mark. I'm sorry. My name's David Thorne, and I'm 45 now, but the day I read that letter, 5 years ago, I was 40 and my world imploded. Because Clara, my wife of 15 years, had left me for Mark, my own brother. And what happened next? Well, you really won't believe it. Mark, 38 then, was my younger brother. We were close, or so I thought. Shared secrets, shared laughter, even shared bunk beds when we were kids. He was my best man, the godfather to my daughter, Lily, who was 10 at the time. Clara, 38 when she left, had always seemed to adore him, teasing him, laughing at his jokes. I never saw it coming. Not once. Not a flicker of suspicion. The day I found that letter, she was gone. Her clothes, her toiletries, half her books, all gone. The house felt hollow, echoing with a silence that screamed her absence. My parents, Eleanor and Arthur Thorne, both in their late 60s, were devastated. They loved Clara like their own daughter. The news of her leaving for Mark hit them almost as hard as it hit me. My mom cried for days. My dad, usually stoic, just sat in silence, staring out the window. The first few weeks were a blur of pain, confusion, and raw anger. I called Mark, of course. His phone went straight to voicemail. I called Clara, same thing. They had vanished, together, into thin air. No forwarding address, no explanations, no goodbyes, not even to Lily. That stung the most. How could she abandon our daughter like that? Lily was heartbroken, confused, asking questions I couldn't answer. Why did Mom leave? Why did Uncle Mark go with her? Her innocent questions felt like knives twisting in my gut. My best friend, Ben Carter, 40, a therapist by profession, tried to help me cope. He'd sit with me for hours, letting me rant, letting me cry. He encouraged me to feel the anger, the grief, the betrayal. But even Ben, with all his experience, was stumped by the sheer audacity of it. Your own brother, David. That's unprecedented. The local community, being a close-knit one, was buzzing. Whispers, sympathetic glances, awkward silences. It was humiliating. I was the cuckolded husband, abandoned by his wife for his own sibling. People didn't know what to say to me. Some offered hesitant condolences, others just avoided eye contact. I had to explain it to Lily. It was the hardest conversation of my life. I told her that sometimes adults make very difficult choices, and that it wasn't her fault. I promised her that I would always be there for her, and that she was loved. But her eyes held a sadness that broke my heart. She missed her mom. She missed her uncle. I tried to move on. I threw myself into my work as an architect, designing buildings, creating structures. It was a way to ground myself, to focus on something tangible when my personal life felt like crumbling ruins. I spent every spare moment with Lily, trying to create new routines, new memories. We went on weekend trips, cooked together, watched movies. She was my anchor, but the phantom presence of Clara and Mark, their betrayal, lingered. I still had no contact. No calls, no letters, no social media updates. They had cut themselves off completely. It was like they had vanished from the face of the earth. 6 months after they disappeared, a cryptic email landed in my inbox. No subject, no sender. Just a single line of text. She's in danger. They both are. Look for the owl. My heart hammered. Danger. What danger? And, the owl. It felt like a riddle, a bad joke. My immediate thought was that it was a trick, a cruel attempt to mess with my head. I almost deleted it, but something held me back. The wording felt urgent, desperate. I showed it to Ben. He was skeptical. Could be anyone, David. A prank, or someone trying to stir up trouble. But he saw the flicker of hope, or perhaps dread, in my eyes. The owl clue was baffling. I scoured the internet, looked for any connection between Clara, Mark, and owls. Nothing. It seemed meaningless. Days turned into weeks, and the email stayed at the back of my mind, an unsettling buzz. Then, a year after they left, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside, a small, crudely carved wooden owl, and a micro SD card. My hands trembled as I inserted the card into my laptop. It contained a single video file. It was grainy, shaky, filmed in what looked like a dimly lit room. And there they were, Clara and Mark. They looked thin, gaunt, their eyes hollow. They were speaking, but their voices were distorted, muffled. It was clear they were under duress. Then, a moment of clarity. Mark, in a fleeting gesture, held up his hand, and I saw a tattoo on his wrist. A small, stylized owl. The tattoo wasn't there before they left. It was new, and it was exactly like the wooden owl in the package. My heart lurched. This was real. They were in trouble. I immediately called Mark. He was quiet, serious. He came over within the hour. I showed him the video, the owl, explained the email. He confirmed it. This was far beyond a simple affair gone wrong. This is bad, David, he said, his voice grim. This looks like a kidnapping, or worse. We started trying to decipher the video. Their distorted words, their subtle movements. It was agonizingly slow, but Ben, with his therapist's eye for body language, picked up on a pattern. They seemed to be trying to convey something specific, through seemingly random gestures and muffled words. Then, a breakthrough. Lily, my daughter, was watching me try to clean up the video, her curiosity piqued. She saw Mark on the screen. Dad, she exclaimed, pointing. Uncle Mark's doing our secret handshake. Our secret handshake. A silly sequence of hand taps and finger wiggles we'd invented years ago. I replayed the video, and there it was. Mark was subtly incorporating parts of our handshake into his distressed gestures. It was a message, a desperate plea. With Ben's help, we broke down the handshake, translating it into a rudimentary code. It led us to a location, an abandoned industrial complex outside the city, a place I barely remembered, where Mark and I used to play as kids. And a cryptic phrase, he knows. The architect. The architect. My mind raced. David Miller, the name that had triggered the initial email. Could he be involved? I remembered seeing him once, years ago, at a conference, a casual introduction through a mutual acquaintance. But he wasn't part of my immediate circle. I brought the architect clue to Ben. He looked into David Miller. He was a highly respected architect, but with a recent history of financial troubles and a few controversial, failed projects. He had recently gone off the radar, too, much like Clara and Mark. We found his last known address. It was in a quiet suburban neighborhood, a stark contrast to the derelict industrial complex. Mark and I went there, cautiously, armed with only our suspicions and a desperate hope for answers. The house was empty, abandoned. But inside, we found more clues. Documents, blueprints, not for buildings, but for something else entirely. An underground facility, a complex, secure vault. And among the papers, a series of schematics outlining a sophisticated surveillance system. And photos. Photos of Clara and Mark, but also photos of me. My house, my car, my daily routines. My entire life had been under surveillance. Then, the final piece of the puzzle. A journal. David Miller's journal. It detailed his obsession with my family, specifically with my father, Arthur Thorne. My father, years ago, had been a key witness in a major fraud case that had brought down a powerful criminal syndicate. David Miller's father had been one of the syndicate's lieutenants, and had gone to prison because of my dad's testimony. David Miller blamed my father for ruining his family, for destroying his life. His plan, meticulously detailed in the journal, was not just about revenge on my father, but about dismantling our entire family, piece by piece. He intended to separate us, to isolate us, to make us suffer. He had targeted Clara, seduced her, and manipulated her into leaving me for Mark, knowing the emotional devastation it would cause. He planned to keep them captive, forcing me to suffer their absence, while he slowly, methodically, ruined my father's reputation, his peace. The terrible something was a long, drawn-out torment for my family. He was going to expose my father's past, paint him as a corrupt figure, and destroy everything he had built. The industrial complex, the owl, was a symbol of his watchfulness, his hidden presence. Clara and Mark weren't willingly participating in an affair. They were victims, manipulated, coerced, perhaps even brainwashed. David Miller's journal detailed his psychological tactics, his insidious methods of control. Clara's letter, terse and unfeeling, was likely dictated, a calculated blow designed to inflict maximum pain. Mark, Ben, and I contacted the authorities with everything we had. The video, the journal, the surveillance photos, the blueprints of the hidden facility. The police, initially skeptical, quickly realized the gravity of the situation. This wasn't a domestic dispute, it was a sophisticated, years-long plot of revenge and psychological warfare. A tactical team was assembled. We descended on the abandoned industrial complex. It was a tense, nerve-wracking operation. We found the hidden vault, exactly as detailed in the blueprints. Inside, Clara and Mark were held captive, disoriented, weak, but alive. They were ecstatic to see me, to see Ben, to see the police. Clara broke down, sobbing, apologizing profusely, explaining how David Miller had manipulated her, how he had twisted her mind, how he had isolated her. Mark, too, was a shell of his former self, traumatized but relieved. David Miller was there. He put up a fight, but he was apprehended. His face, when he saw me, held no surprise, only a chilling, calm hatred. You were supposed to suffer, David, he said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. You were supposed to lose everything. But he hadn't won. The aftermath was a long, arduous process. Clara and Mark needed extensive psychological support. They had been through hell, subjected to months of psychological manipulation and captivity. Clara explained everything, the seduction, the coercion, the chilling threats David Miller had made against me and Lily if she didn't comply. She was truly sorry, truly a victim. It wasn't an easy reconciliation. The betrayal, even under duress, had left deep wounds. But seeing her suffering, understanding the extent of David Miller's depravity, helped me find a path to forgiveness. For Lily's sake, for our family's sake, we began the slow, painful process of healing. David Miller was charged with kidnapping, psychological torture, and a host of other crimes. His detailed journal, a testament to his sick obsession, was key evidence. He went to prison, where he belonged. My parents, Eleanor and Arthur, were heartbroken by the revelations, but relieved beyond measure that Clara and Mark were safe. They rallied around us, providing immense support. Lily, my brave, resilient daughter, eventually understood. It was a difficult truth, but knowing her mom was a victim, not a willing participant, made a world of difference. Clara and I are rebuilding our marriage, slowly, carefully. It's not the same as it was before, but perhaps it's stronger, forged in the fires of unimaginable adversity. We're more honest, more open, more vulnerable. Mark is recovering, too, though the trauma will likely stay with him forever. We talk, we heal, we support each other. My wife left me for my brother. But you won't believe what happened next. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a cunning, years-long plot of revenge that almost destroyed my entire family. But we fought back, and we survived, and in the end, we found a strength and a bond that, ironically, David Miller's twisted plan never intended. Make sure to like, share and subscribe to keep us motivated.